Chapter 4. It was Easter week, and Mrs. Tulliver's cheesecakes were lighter than usual. "I wish I didn't have to invite my sister Deanne this time," said Mrs. Tulliver to her husband. "She's jealous and is always thinking the worst about the children." "You should ask her to come," said Mr. Tulliver. "I haven't talked to her husband in 6 months." "And what does it matter what she says about the children? They aren't beholden to her." "You say that, Mr. Tulliver, but you know she plans to leave them some money in her will, whereas my sisters Glegg and Pullet only think of their own interest." "That money is nothing. She has to divide it between 6 nieces and nephews. How can she favour our children?" "She can't. They're so awkward with her. Maggie is 10 times more naughty when she comes, and Tom doesn't like her at all. And there's Lucy Deanne, such a good, quiet child. I can't help loving her like my own. She's more like my child than my sister Deanne's." "Then ask her to come with you," said Mr. Tulliver, "and the children's aunt and Uncle Moss as well. We don't have space, Mr. Tulliver, and you know that my sisters and your sister do not get along." "Do as you like, then," said Mr. Tulliver, taking his hat and leaving for the mill. Mrs. Tulliver was submissive on all points except her own family. She had been a Miss Dodson before he married her. They were one of the most respected families in the area, but they had a very peculiar way of doing things and a habit of thinking that their ways were the best. Even though Mrs. Tulliver was the mildest member of that family, she was a Dodson and still cared greatly what her sisters thought of her. Neither Maggie nor Tom inherited this reverence for the Dodson family. Tom especially tended to hide when they came to visit, not even telling Maggie where he was going. On the day before they were to arrive, Tom and Maggie sneaked into the kitchen to snatch some of the cakes being made for the occasion. Maggie asked him if he planned on running away when they came. "No, I don't think I shall," said Tom. "The food will be too good." He took out his pocket-knife and plunged it into the slice of cake in his hand. "Shut your eyes, Maggie." She obeyed. He sliced the cake in two and held out his hands. "Now, will you choose the left hand or the right hand?" he said. Maggie picked the left. It contained the bigger piece of cake. "No, I can't. You have it, Tom," she said. "No, you chose it. It's yours," said Tom. "Oh, please, I don't mind. You take it," said Maggie. "No," said Tom rather crossly. He watched Maggie eat her piece with great enjoyment and began to feel annoyed. "You're so greedy. You always get the best bit," he said finally. He jumped up and ran off with Yap. Maggie wished she had saved some of the cake for Tom. She sat and cried for a while before deciding to look for Tom. She spotted him quite far off toward the Floss, with his friend Bob Jakin. Maggie was sure that Bob was a wicked boy, and Tom never let her come along when the two boys were together. Maggie did not go after them, but sat down by herself. Meanwhile, Tom had forgotten all about his quarrel with Maggie when he came across Bob. He was on his way to watch a rat catching in a neighbour's barn. "The rat catcher has ferrets," Bob reported. "They're better than any animal at catching rats." "Ferrets are nasty biting things," said Tom. The two boys were interrupted by the sound of some small animal plunging into the river. They walked to the edge to see what it was. "I heard this river will flood the Floss soon," said Tom. "When I'm a man, I will make a boat with a wooden house on top, like Noah's Ark. And I'll keep plenty to eat on it, so I'll be ready if a flood comes. I'd take you in, Bob, if I saw you swimming," he said benevolently. "I have a halfpenny. Let's play heads or tails," said Bob. He tossed the coin in the air. "Tails," said Tom. "It's heads," said Bob, snatching the penny as it fell. "It wasn't. You cheated," said Tom. "Give it to me." "I won't." "You have to do what I say. I'm master," said Tom. "I don't care," said Bob. The two boys began to fight. They struggled fiercely on the ground for a minute or two until Tom pinned Bob to the ground, determined to get the halfpenny. At that moment, Yap took the opportunity to sink his teeth into Bob's leg. Bob pushed Tom off